You are audible, sir.
Yeah. Myself, Advocate Neeraj Pandey. I am a moderator for today's meeting. Today, legal drafting, which will present by our Girish Rao sir, advocate and solicitor, specialized in law and civil litigation. He more than 25 years experience in the High Court and also he has very good experience in MOFA and right from inspection of RERA. He is advising some of development in RERA and was involved in the registration of more than 50 projects. His strength is structuring the real estate, deals and litigation. He avoids football and still play football regularly. Over to you, sir. Girish Rao, sir. Welcome. And go ahead.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Well, yeah. It's a great pleasure to speak on this topic of drafting. I thank you for inviting me to this session. Drafting is like a script. Whether it is a drafting of a document or drafting of a pleading in the court. I hope I'm audible to everyone, right?
Sir.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. You are audible.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are audible. Girish, you are audible.
Okay.
Please continue.
Okay. Because it's always like a script of a film, a movie. When you draft, whatever you draft, someone reading should feel that he's seeing a movie. The drafting should be like that. That's what you have to always intend to achieve the things. Whether it's a pleading in the court or whether it is the document which you are drafting. Today I'm going to speak on a few points about the drafting of a document. This itself a huge and vast subject. There are few hundred different types of document which we as an advocate have to draft. But today I'm going to speak on drafting of documents. So now let's start about it. First, when we are drafting a document, there will be always a minimum two numbers of the parties. There will be minimum two members of the parties, or maybe more also as the thing. But there will be minimum two numbers. Then it starts upon the kind of documents which we are making. If it's an agreement, then you start with agreement made dash. If it's a mortgage, is a deed of mortgage, then deed of mortgage, deed of conveyance. It depends on what kind of document which we are drafting. So first comes the name of the document. Then second comes the place of execution. So it will be like this agreement made at Mumbai, deed of mortgage made at Delhi, whatever it is. So place makes one of the most important factor for the document, because if there are any dispute about the document, if any dispute arise out of those documents, everything will decide where the document is executed. So it is important that when in the executed document, you put a place on that. So agreement made, these are the normal format which we are following, which we are taken from the English formats. So this will be like this agreement made at Mumbai, this agreement made at Delhi, like that. So next come is date. Like, so it is mentioned like this agreement made at Mumbai on 15th day of July 2020. Similarly, deed of mortgage made at on 15th day of July 2020. See, these are the standard format in which date comes on the top. Reason behind that, it is easy to understand, easy to find out which date the document is of. In some document, you will find the date is written at the end when we write the signature column, when we write our signature. Exception to this normal practice is the power of attorney. In power of attorney, you will find date is always on the bottom, just above the signature column. Otherwise, in all documents, it is on the top. So now what we have covered is the name of the document, the place where we have executed the document, and the date when the document is executed. The date of document becomes important because on basis of when the document is executed, lot of things come into picture, like date of registration. The document, if it requires a mandatory registration, it has to be registered within 4 months. So date becomes important. If some rights and if anything has to be done pursuant to document within a particular period mentioned in the document, that is also important. So the date becomes important on the document. Now, the second aspect which comes in executing document is the parties. See, parties can be, as you are aware, parties can be individual. There can be few people joining together, association of person, HUF, partnership firm, or LLP, limited liability partnership firm, company, trust, society, and many others who can be parties. So third part which comes is a party to the document. So you, as a document writer, we should know how to write about the parties which are going to sign the document. So now let's see, if it's an individual, how the person will be mentioned. See, when an individual is executing document, it is always written Mr. X, age so and so, residing at XYZ place, and then hereinafter referred as vendor, which expression shall, unless repugnant to the context thereof, be deemed to include his or their heirs, executor, assigner, administrator, and assigned. This is most important part, because when an individual is executing a document, 7 exceptional cases, his legal heir are also bound by those documents. So you will find when an individual is a party, in that case you write, this will also include his heir, legal heirs, executor, administrator, and assigned. See, understand, when there is an agreement, the executor will, his executor and his assignee will also be bound by that. But if but if it is a deed of conveyance, then in place, then in the bracket it should assign should not come, because vendor has assigned all his right to the purchaser. So in deed of conveyance there will be an exemption that his legal heir, executor and administrators it will come. Assign will not come. Now, so this becomes when it is a case of an individual. So now let's see if it's a partnership firm, how it is. Why I have taken partnership firm is because normally I always find that I don't know what has happened. I'm not sorry, just I don't know why the slide is not moving. Yeah, yeah, sorry. So when it comes to partnership firm, we often come across XYZ firm represented by partner X ABC. That is a totally wrong way of drafting a document. Understand this. Partnership firm is not a legal entity. There is no legal entity as a firm, except for income tax purpose. For purpose of income tax, yes, partnership is considered as a separate legal entity. But when it comes to document, it is not separate legal entity. So what has have to be done is that all partner should be made as a party. So the proper way of doing mentioning about the firm is Mr. XYZ, whatever name is, write name of all partners, then carrying on business in name and style as whatever it is I have mentioned here, Lakshmi Industry, a firm registered under the Partnership Act, having its office at dash. See here, see how we have mentioned in the parenthesis how the other partners will be covered, how the legal heirs will be covered, which expression shall, unless repugnant to the context or meaning thereof, be deemed to mean and includes the partners. See the word partner. Partners for the time being of the said firm. Then the survivor and survivors of them and their heirs, executor, administrator, or last surviving partner, and their heir and their assigned and is assigned. So who are liable? Because all partners are liable, and when they expire, their legal heirs also will become liable. So you have to keep it in a mind. Then when you are mentioning about a firm, you should not mention the name of the firm. It should be all partners. And certainly when you are drafting any document in which a immovable property is referred in, it should always be, you should always make all partners as a party. Always remember that. So I just took an example of the firm where the partnership is signing the document. And I'm not taking other thing. I have experience that often it comes with name partnerships also. If you are doing any other kind of document where immovable property is not involved, you can take that liberty. I also take sometime that liberty, but then then if it is immovable property, then you can take that liberty, but normally avoid doing it. Now when party's name comes, now we have a parties who are executing, place where it is being executed, kind of document, then place, then the date, then we have mentioned about the parties. Thereafter our document starts. First, when you start with the document, there will be a recital. Recital means basically it comes in the two parts: narrative recital and introductory recitals. The narrative recital means why the document is, what is the past history. Suppose when it's question of immovable property is involved, in that we will always write the vendor had purchased the property from XYZ, that XYZ had purchases from someone else. So there will be narrative recitals how the vendor has acquired the property. Once you complete narrative recital, then you introduce it is called introductory recital. Excuse me. Introductory recital means the whole object of the document. See, when you are drafting a document, there is always a reason why you are drafting a document. So after narrative recital is over, you have to introduce why this document is executed. So let's suppose, just I'm giving an example repeatedly of agreement for sale because that is easier for me to explain it to you. So when it comes to an agreement for sale, we will be telling that vendor has agreed to sell the property to the purchaser for consideration of rupees XYZ, X amount, in the manner more particularly stated herein under. So you have introduced a document, the whole object of the document, why this document is introduced, why this document is being executed. So this part, first part becomes, now you have introduced the document, that is a recital. Then thereafter comes the second part, is which we can call the operative part. For that, first clause is called as testatum clause, which if it is deed, it is mentioned as now this deed witness that in pursuance of premises and for consideration. So this is the way it is described when there is a deed. Just to intervene here, to deed means, I hope every one of you might be knowing, some of you certainly might be knowing. Deed means a document by which transaction is normally closed, like deed of sale or deed of conveyance. There is nothing further which is required to be done. So it is called a deed. And certain deeds only one party sign. Like deed of conveyance, which is normally was being signed only by one of the party, that is a vendor. There used to be a wrong notion that when it's a deed of sale, both the parties used to sign. If you all see the old documents in deed of sale, deed of conveyance, only vendor signed the document, not the purchaser. Why? Because in a deed of conveyance, vendor is transferring the property to the purchaser, and purchaser has paid entire amount. So there is nothing which purchaser has to do unless a deed of conveyance contains any covenant by the purchaser. That is, suppose in a deed of conveyance, if purchaser is going to pay the consideration in installment, that means purchaser is giving some covenants. That is a time when purchaser's signature is also required. And this was a case till 2004, I believe, 2004 or something. In 2004, an amendment was introduced to the to the Registration Act, which has made it mandatory for both parties to sign. Otherwise, deed of conveyance, no, both parties are not required to sign, because there is nothing which is done in normal course by the purchaser. He is not giving any covenant, he is not giving you any undertaking. So it was not required to be signed. So all document you will find normally only vendor has signed it. So just excuse me. Now coming to the testatem clause in the agreements. When it comes to agreement, you normally mention now it is agreed. In testatem clause I am talking about. Agreed and declared by and between the parties as under. So when it comes to agreement, there are two parties. One party has to do certain thing, other party has to do certain thing. So two parties have to do certain things. Like if you take in case of agreement for sale of immovable property, so the vendor has to give them title document, has to provide the information, give the requisition, reply to the requisitions which will be given by administered by the purchaser's attorney. So all those things which will be there, he will have to give certain undertaking. So there are certain things which vendor has to do. Similarly, purchaser has to agree that he will pay the amount of consideration which is agreed. So there are two parties who agree to do certain things. Unlike in a deed where only one party is required to convey or transfer it. So that's why in testatem clause it is mentioned normally now is agreed and declared by and between the parties as under. Is it clear? Okay, I can't.
Clear.
Yeah. Sorry. Now, then it comes depending upon what are the kind of document which you are executing. Then clauses will be there, operative clauses. Operative clause means what is this document, how it is going to be operating. Because let's say agreement for sale or deed of conveyance. In that, vendor hereby sell and convey and transfer the said property to XYZ for such and such consideration. if it is suppose an agreement for appointment as an agent, then it will come the XYZ hereby appoint Mr. So and so as his agent on the terms and condition like that. So that is operative clause, means the kind of document or kind of how the document is, but the whole object of the document comes into that. So that part will come operative clause. Then part comes is, then it will, these are the normal thing which will come in the document I am seeing, because there are hundreds of different kind of document which will have a different kind of clauses depending upon what kind of document it is. But these are the normal clauses which an agreement is expected to have. This is one is operative clause. Then there will be consideration clause. So every document which are executed is there is for the consideration. So what is the consideration which will be given or given? Then there will be representation by the both the parties. If you consider, as told, the agreement for sale, in that case, the purchaser will give lot of the vendors will give lot of representation, like he is owner of the property, he is entitled to sell the property, he has paid all taxes, there are no encumbrances. So all those things, the representation will be given by the party, that is the vendor. Similarly, purchaser will also give you the representation that is entitled to purchase, he will pay the money on time. So there are many representation which the both parties will be giving in the document. So representation will be there. Then always you have to see that there should also be a termination clause, because parties agreed to do XYZ thing, but what happens if they are not able to go ahead with the understanding which is arrived? So for that, you have to be very clear when you are executing a document. There has to be a clause for termination of the agreement, so that when the dispute arises, the clause is clear, there is a process for the termination and the process which will have to be followed at the time of termination. So it could be like this, that if there is a breach, normally when you terminate an agreement, you always issue a show cause why the agreement should not be terminated. So basically, there normally you give a time. If there is a breach, rectify a breach within 15 days. If you don't rectify it, in that case, the agreement will be terminated. So in the document, there should be a termination clause. Then other clause is that jurisdiction clause. Jurisdiction will be important here, because when parties are from different places, suppose one party is from Delhi, another party is from Mumbai. In that case, if dispute arise, depending upon the transaction, a court at Mumbai also may have a jurisdiction and court at Delhi also may have a jurisdiction. It depends on facts and circumstances. But when you write, if the jurisdiction is only Mumbai, then in case of dispute, the court only in Mumbai will have a jurisdiction if cause of action has arisen in Mumbai. So jurisdiction in case of any dispute should be.
Sorry, Nitish, we are running out of time.
Yeah. Yeah, I am just closing it in next 5 minutes. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. So
Yeah,
issue
yeah.
comes.
Because by 3:10 it will switch off. 3:05 it will switch off. Therefore, we need to wind up.
Okay.
In
Okay.
2-3 minutes you can carry on. No problem. Thank you.
So when it comes to jurisdiction, the jurisdiction should be mentioned where it is. Then, since we are running of short time, anyhow, I was also coming to closure because this topic itself at least will require around 5 to 10 session if we go detail of these topics. So next, last comes the signature clause. Why I have taken signature clause, which in case of a company, how the signature other we know how the signature clause is mentioned, but I always find it totally wrong when it comes in respect of company, limited company. It should be always, see, understand that limited company is also a legal entity which can execute a document, which can buy a property, sell a property. But as a separate legal entity, a company cannot sign it. So company has to put its seal. When company is putting a seal, someone has to be witness. So therefore, signature clause in the company, when a company is executing the document, should be like this: common seal of the within named company, measures XYZ Private Limited, is hereto affixed pursuant to resolution of Board of Directors in its meeting held on so and so by. So it is a common seal of the company, and two directors or company secretaries witness to the seal and also to the meeting. So that's why I have just taken the signature clause of the company. So that is how the document has to be. Just this was a brief introduction of the document, how the document should be. This will take at least 5 to 10 lectures when we go through each and entire thing. I have suggested, Kumar, if we can possibly have series of lecture in which we can consider few more documents. So I am ending my lecture. It was a great pleasure talking to you people. If you have any questions, you can ask me or you can text it. Thank you. Thank you, Kumar. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Girish, sir. Myself, Advocate Neeraj Pandit, today's monitor.
Yeah.
Thanks
Thank
a
you,
lot,
Neeraj.
thanks a lot, all the participants. Thanks, Girish, sir. Girish Rao, sir. You have explained very maturely and very accessibly what we can say, as we are all here, experienced lawyer as well as law students. We can get another opportunity if it will carry on with Kumar, sir. If anybody have question and answer, they have 2-3 minutes they can ask. Otherwise, I can give over of
Yeah.
this.
If any question, you can type it or you can speak it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are actually running short of time. Questions they can text
So
you, we will
therefore,
mail it to you.
therefore,
Yeah.
okay, sir. Okay, Kumar, sir.
Only I have got an announcement to make tomorrow. Pandit, you can announce. Neeraj, tomorrow's event you can announce, please. If you have an
Yes.
idea about it. Yeah, yeah.
What I had to say, first of all, thanks, Mr. Girish Gopal, sir, today's delegates and solicitor, who have explained very well and drafting. On behalf of our event organization, Legal Society, powered by Lockhawk, our median partner. And tomorrow's lecture, basically, we have that. Just a minute.
Tomorrow we have prevention of sexual harassment at workplace.
Kumar, sir, over to you.
Yeah, prevention of sexual harassment at workplace by Advocate Shilpa Bhatia. That is tomorrow's event. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So we are closing the event. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Neeraj ji,
Bye.
thank you. Participants, thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.